My son Christian was a polite, respectful, compassionate, and caring young man. I last saw him for dinner the night before he was killed. Before he left, he told me he was going to a friend's house and said goodnight, and he loved me. Little did I know I would never hear those words ever again.
Stories like these are not unique in California. In 2017, 172 people were killed by law enforcement in the state, nearly half of them unarmed. Of the 15 police departments with the highest per capita rate of officer killings in the nation, 5 are in California.
We're in a state now that needs to change its policy.
Hundreds of people have taken to the streets to demand change.
Most people think that lethal force is something that is only used as a last resort, and yet our policies don't teach us that.
In one of the more high-profile cases in the last year, police were in pursuit of 22-year-old Stefan Clark, a father of 2 young kids suspected of vandalism.
911, what's location of the emergency?
Guys going down the street breaking windows of cars. He busted both my truck windows out. He busted in the people's backyard right now.
Show me your hands! Gun!
The officers fired their weapons 20 times. 7 bullets hit Clark. 10 minutes after officers arrived to respond to the 911 calls, Stefan Clark was dead. Officers have said they thought the cell phone he was holding was a gun.
We need a policy that says, that you don't use lethal force unless you as an officer are in danger of your own life and being harmed, or someone in the immediate community is going to be harmed. You do all you can to de-escalate the situation, to try to change the dynamics, but you only use lethal force when it is absolutely necessary.
Assemblymember Shirley Weber is certain her bill, AB 392, will bring that much-needed change. The legislation, also known as the California Act to Save Lives, would establish clear rules as to when officers can use deadly force. It would change the current standard from reasonable to necessary to save the life of officers or other individuals.
For those who say that having officers go through a mental checklist prior to firing their weapon would endanger their lives, I say they are being intellectually dishonest. For those who say that AB 392 will negatively influence potential recruits, I say that not everyone who wants to be the police should be the police.
The proposed change has drawn law enforcement groups out in opposition and in disregard for the very real need for change by arguing that this will result in increased danger for officers. I believe they are wrong.
Other experts insist that the vagueness of the current standard, what is reasonable and what is not, has actually led to the deaths of many unarmed civilians, many of them black men.
The use of force is disproportionately used in communities of color. So when you look at the outcome in terms of who's actually being harmed with the lethal force, it turns out to be black and brown. I've had to say to my kids, and I saw my mother say it to my brother, and my uncle said it to his kids, and everybody says the same thing. When you're confronted with the officers, be as polite as you can be as nice as you can be. Do not make any quick moves because you could end up dead. As I look at this and I ask the question, have we made any progress? Very little in this area. And so I don't want to have to keep telling my grandsons that, and I hope that they will not have to tell their children the same thing.